Welcome to Zeus Learning. I am your biology mentor. Today we are going to learn the first chapter, the fundamental unit of life. Okay, look at the diagram here. There are two pictures. What are the pictures? Those one is a plant and another one is a stone. What is the difference between these two pictures? The plant is a living organism. Everyone knew that. The plant is a living organism, but the stone is a non-living thing. Why do we say the plant is a living organism? Because it has life, whereas the stone do not have life. So the cells give life to plants. All plants are made up of cells. All the living organisms, plants, animals and human beings, all are made up of cells. So cells are the basic unit of life. The cells are the fundamental unit of life. We all begin our life from a single unit known as cells. Whereas the non-living thing, the stone, do not have cells, so they don't have life. So that is the main difference between these two pictures. So here comes the fundamental unit of life, that is the basic unit from all the living organisms begin their life. So today let us learn in detail about the cell. Who discovered cell? How did he discover the cell? And what are the structure of a cell? And what are the different theories put forth on cell? And what are the types of organism based on cell? Okay, and structure of a typical cell, and what is the function of each part of the cell, and what is the difference between eukaryotic and prokaryotic cell, and what is the difference between plant cell and animal cell. So these are the points we are going to discuss today. Let us discuss the first point. Who discovered cell, or the history of cell? Let us go back to centuries. In the year 1665, an English scientist, Robert Hooke, discovered cell. Can you say how did he discover cell? Okay, let me explain. He was observing many things under the microscope. He happened to observe a thin slice of cork under the microscope. Do you know what is cork? Cork is a dry wooden piece. It is actually the bark of the plant. So he has taken a thin slice of cork, put under the microscope. It is made up of box-like structures. The boxes were empty because it was a dead material, and these boxes were similar to the rooms. So the rooms in Latin meaning cells. So from that word, Robert Hooke used the word cells. So in this way, the cell is discovered at first time by Robert Hooke in the year 1665. But he discovered dead cells. After 15 years later, in the year 1674, a Dutch scientist, Antony van Leeuwenhoek, discovered living cells. Did you hear about the scientist? Yes, he was very famous because he discovered even microscope and the presence of microorganism. So let us know how did he discover the living cells. He was observing many things under the microscope. When he was observing pond water under the microscope, he could see some moving object, and it was nothing but some kind of spirogyra, an algae, and in that algae he found out the presence of cells. So that was the discovery of living cells in living organism like spirogyra. So cells were discovered by Robert Hooke at the first time, but it was dead cell. Later the living cells were discovered by Antony van Leeuwenhoek. Cells are of different sizes and shapes. Look at the picture here. You can see there are different types of cells over there. Some are round in shape, some are disc shape, some are oval shape, some are long, some are very short, and one very small in shape. So you can say cells are of different sizes and shapes. Do you know what is the largest cell in the world? Okay, it is the ostrich egg cell. And can you say the smallest cell? The smallest cell is nothing but a kind of bacterial cell, that is mycoplasma. Whereas in the body of human being, the largest cell is the nerve cell and the smallest cell is the granular cell of brain. Okay? But in male human being, the sperm cell is considered as the smallest cell. So these are about the sizes and shapes of cell. Now let us move on to the next part, cell theory. So in the year 1838, three German scientists, Theodor Schwann, Matthew Schleiden and Rudolf Virchow, postulated cell theory. According to cell theory, every living organism is made up of cells. Cell is the basic unit of life. New cells are arise from the old cells or the pre-existing cells. So these are the three statements of cell theory. Okay. Now let us move on to the next part, structure of a typical cell. Every living organism is made up of cell. So all the cells are having three important parts. So let us know what are the important parts of a cell. Here, look at the diagram here. This is a diagram of a typical cell. So the outermost part of the cell is a membrane-like structure known as plasma membrane or cell membrane. Inner to that, there is a fluid-like structure called as cytoplasm. And innermost, the most prominent part of this cell, that is called as nucleus. So these are the three important parts seen in all the cells. Based upon the number of cells in organisms, organisms are of two types, unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. Uni, what is the meaning of uni? Uni means single. So if the organism is having a single cell in their body, they are known as unicellular organism. The best example is primitive organism like amoeba, paramecium, chlamydomonas, etc. Whereas all the higher plants and animals and human beings are multicellular organism. What is meant by multicellular? Multi means many. The organism, they are having more than one cells in their body, they are called multicellular organisms. The best example is plants, animals and human beings. Let us learn about each part of the cell in detail. Let us learn the first part, plasma membrane. Plasma membrane or cell membrane. It is the outermost part of the cell. It covers the cell as well as it protects the cell. And it protects the cell from external medium. Okay. The cell membrane is made up of lipids and proteins. The cell membrane is porous. It has holes throughout. It allows only certain substances to pass through it. So gaseous exchange and water movement from one cell to another cell as well as from outside to inside the cell takes place through plasma membrane. The gas like carbon dioxide and oxygen passes through the plasma membrane by a process called as diffusion. You might have heard about the word diffusion. Can you say what is diffusion? Yes, diffusion is nothing but the movement of molecules from higher concentration to lower concentration. In the case of cells, the carbon dioxide and oxygen passes from higher concentration to lower concentration through the plasma membrane, and even from one cell to another cell also by a process called diffusion. Whereas the movement of water molecules through the plasma membrane by a process called osmosis. So I think osmosis word is also familiar for you, right? So it is a familiar word in chemistry. So osmosis is nothing but a process of movement of molecules from lower concentration to higher concentration. So as well as it is the movement of molecules. What kind of molecules? Water molecule from high concentrated water area to low concentrated water area. Okay. Based upon this, there are three solutions identified: isotonic solution, hypertonic solution and hypertonic solution. You have an activity in your textbook. You will be given a plant cell and you have to put the plant cell in three different solutions. Okay. When you put the plant cell in isotonic solution, what will happen? Isotonic solution is a solution. The external and internal medium is same. So nothing will happen to the plant cell. Whereas if you put the cell in a hypotonic solution, inside it is lower concentration and outside it is higher concentration. So what will happen? The water molecules from outside get inside the cell through the plasma membrane. As a result, the cell swells up. Whereas if you put the cell, plant cell in a hypertonic solution, what will happen? So hypertonic, inside it is more concentrated water, more water molecules, outside it is less. So the water molecules move from inside the cell to outside. As a result, the cells will shrink. So the plasma membrane play an important role for movement of molecules within the cells as well as from one cell to another cell. Now let us move on to the second part of the cell, that is cytoplasm. Okay, look at the diagram here. Cytoplasm is the part inner to the plasma membrane. It is a jelly fluid like structure. In the cytoplasm, you can see a number of organelles. The organelles are nothing but different parts of the cell. Okay, each and every organelle perform different functions. So we'll learn more about these organelles in the next class. Now move on to the next part, that is nucleus. So look at the diagram here. It is the diagram of the nucleus. Here in nucleus is the most important and powerful part of the cell. The nucleus is known as control room of the cell, and it is also known as brain of the cell, as well as it is also called as boss of the cell. So from that you can understand how much important the nucleus is. The nucleus is very, very important for the cell to perform all the activities. Okay. So inside the nucleus there is a fluid part called as nucleolus, and nucleus is covered by a double membranous structure known as nuclear membrane. Nuclear membrane is also a semi-permeable membrane. It allows only certain substances to inside and outside. In the nucleoplasm, you can see a number of rod-like structures. The rod-like structures are called chromosomes, and the chromosomes contain the genetic material DNA, and DNA contain genes. They are the hereditary units. The genes carry the characters from parents to offsprings. So genes are the hereditary units which brings all the characters from parents to the children or the offsprings. Okay. Then in addition to this chromosome, there is a round stained body that is called as nucleolus. The nucleolus is important for protein synthesis. So these are the important parts seen in nucleus. based upon the presence of nucleus in a cell. Cells are of two types, prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. Can you see what is prokaryotic cell? Yes, prokaryotic cell is nothing but the cell which do not have a prominent nucleus, or the cell without nucleus is called prokaryotic cell. The best example is unicellular cells or the organism like bacteria. Whereas eukaryotic cell, we all are having eukaryotic cell. Human being, animals, plants all are having eukaryotic cell. So what is eukaryotic cell? Eukaryotic cells are the cells which are having a prominent nucleus. So in our body there are millions and millions of cells. Do you know how many cells are there in our body? Yes, of course it is almost 70 trillion cells are there in the body of an adult human being. So each and every cell is having prominent nucleus. Okay. Now let us move on to another interesting part, then differences between plant cell and animal cell. You all know that plants are living organisms and animals are also living organisms. Plants are made up of cells and animals also made up of cells. Even then there are a lot of differences between the cells. So let us know what are the main differences between plant cells and animal cells. Look at the table here. Plant cells are having a thick membrane outer to the plasma membrane. It is called cell wall. So cell wall is present in plant cell, cell wall is absent in animal cell. So you can see that almost all the plants are green in color. That is due to the presence of a green coloring pigment present in an organella known as chloroplast. So chloroplast is a type of plastid. Like that, three types of plastids are there: chloroplast, chromoplast and leucoplast. So you can say plastids are present in plant cell, plastids are absent in animal cells. Then another important part, a big vacuole. So what is a vacuole? Vacuole is an organella filled with water. So a big vacuole is present in plant cell. Small vacuoles are present in animal cells. Okay. And a particular part which is present only in animal cell is called centrosome. The centrosome is an organella present only in animal cell during the cell division time, whereas centrosome is absent in the case of plant cells. So these are the major differences between plant cells and animal cells. So today that's all. The next part we'll discuss about all the organelles and their functions and their importance, etc., etc. Okay. So see you in the next class.